This is my good friend Danny. We met in 20, I feel like a family portrait
Yeah, this is.
right now. We met in 2022 when I brought in a drawing to Umiko, owner of Umiko, a frame shop and gallery in Atwater Village. And
I'm trying not to cry.
And we met, we met when I brought in a drawing and I needed it framed to send to a show in North Carolina. And you came out of the, Umiko looked very different. You came out of your office with your beads and you were like, is this a print?
Yeah.
And I was like, no. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
And
Was that the day I called you a crazy person? May have been.
I think that was later. That would have been
Really?
too soon.
Yeah.
And then I kept bringing in drawings, and eventually you were like, "Do you want to do a show here?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then we opened the show, and I was like, "I want to be best friends with him."
We had a show of hers last year in the former gallery space, the smaller room, and now we're doing a show of hers in the larger gallery space. The work, as you just heard, is kind of confusing because the detail is so good that I don't really want to describe the work as confusing.
You can.
It's just
Art
it's
is
kind
subjective.
of mind-boggling that it can be done by hand.
Yeah, it's colored pencil.
Colored
So I
pencil.
feel like, and some people think it's watercolor because it's like the texture of it is.
The show we did last year was in the small gallery, and I thought that it went so well that I converted the large room from production space into a gallery. And so it was kind of like, okay,
For Christine's show.
yeah. It was like, we're going to do a show of hers in the big room, as it was kind of the impetus to change that space. And so it's just kind of timing when to do it. And we took a small break from shows recently, and it makes sense to me to have hers be the first one back on track.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, I think I literally just brought in, at the end of the first show, we were like, oh, we should do this again.
Yeah.
We didn't, like, know when, but then at one point, I think, like, early this year, I was just bringing in some drawings to just, like, put in cellophane sleeves or something like that. And you were like, do you want to do a show?
Yeah, I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah. I've been working on the show for, like, almost a year. Like, not to sound, like, presumptuous, but I was kind of like, I had like every piece planned. I'll think about ideas for like a long time. Like I'll sketch things out, or like I'll just kind of have something floating around in my head. And sometimes I'll think about a drawing for like a very long time. And so I knew that if I wanted to do another show, whether it was at Umiko or if it was somewhere else, I knew like what that show would look like what pieces like I wanted to include in that show.
But also the larger space kind of allowed you to
Yeah.
work on larger pieces,
Go bigger.
which you hadn't done too much.
I had like two bigger pieces. I think two or three bigger pieces in the first show, and then this show is like mostly bigger pieces. Like some small sketches, some like 16 by 20 drawings, but most of them are pretty big. I mean, not that the first one didn't feel easeful. I think it actually felt really easeful, but I think we just know each other a lot better this time. I think we just like, we know what to expect and can kind of just be like, oh, like, what do you think about this? Or like, you know, pricing like feels very natural.
I think we also have, like, we know what happened last year, so like we can use that as reference.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you want to do
Yeah.
this the same as last year, or do you want to try
Something
this?
different.
Or
Right.
if there's something that I'm not sure about, I know that we can do it because we did it. Yeah, that makes it a lot lighter.
Yeah. I think trust and like I know if there's like ever anything that I'm kind of like, not like I'm not so sure about that, or like this isn't feeling good, or even if it is feeling good, like we can always like talk about it. Yeah.
Also, like something about the time cards, that feels very collaborative. Like,
Oh, yeah.
how are we gonna place this, or how are we
Yeah.
gonna do that? And it's easy to bounce ideas because we've seen it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. The time cards, last time we put them on this, we like made like a map of the, did you see this?
Yeah. That's cool.
We put like a map, like you are here, like map, and placed them in relation to where the pieces were in the show. And then this time we're going to do something a little bit different, which feels
In the
cool.
last one, what do you think the split was of people who got it and people
God.
who were like, what is
Truly
this?
50-50.
Yeah.
I like including them with the drawings because it just contextualizes. Yeah, we talked about this during the first show. It's not a flex, it's more of a contextualization of the work and the craft, because each tally mark is an hour, and I'll just use, and I joke with my attorney friends that it's my billable hours, because it's really like each hour is like drawing time. Like I'll honestly like set a timer, and I'll use whatever tool is in my hand, and then I'll color test on the side. And I don't know, people seem to really like them.
I think it's also interesting to see, because when you do the tally marks, it's with the color that you use that day.
Yeah.
You kind of get to see like the color story of how the piece gets made just through the time card, which
Totally,
is kind of,
yeah.
otherwise you look at it, you go to a place and you look at a piece and you wouldn't,
Like, how do you do it? Yeah.
you wouldn't get to see that. Like,
Right.
you don't know what the order.
Yeah. Also, I worked on the one in your house on your birthday,
Oh yeah.
too, which is like
they're also
important to
dated.
you. I also have time cards for all of the, like the chandeliers, too, that I think we're gonna
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to come up with something.
figure something out for that. I think for me, I have two things. The first is I don't think anybody like really knows what they're doing in terms of like being alive. Like everyone is just kind of like floating through time and space and like doing the best they can. So I think about that whenever I'm kind of anxious or stressed about whatever, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Like no one knows what they're doing. Like, or if I get anxious about like meeting someone like I've admired or whatever, it's like everyone's just kind of doing the best they can. And then the other one is about going at my own pace, because I think we're living in a very particular time in terms of creation, and everything's like quick. Videos are like a minute long sometimes, or at least like platforms are built so that like the attention span can be constantly fed. And for me, my work is glacial, and just coming to terms with that and being okay that like it's just going to take the time it takes. Like there's no real shortcuts. And like if something takes over 200 hours to make, it's like that's just how long that's just like my pace.
Not spending too much time worrying about stuff that, like the show, for example, where we are right now, we're 3 weeks out. In my head, like I already see it like opening, we're good. So I'm not worrying about getting there, it's just like doing it. Yeah, not spending too much time about like how's it gonna look? Are we gonna get it done on time? Like I don't have any of that.
Nice.
And I'm not scared of any of that.
Who gave you that advice?
Who gave me that advice? Me. Yeah. We're doing that. We've done it 15 times in the last year.
Our second rodeo.
Like it's
Yeah.
It's not, there's no like, oh, can we do this in this space or
Totally.
no.
Yeah.
Not worrying too much about that.
Yeah.
Also, like the chandeliers are very different from what you've been doing.
Yeah.
And just like just unexpected things are good.
Yeah.
Do something that's unexpected to yourself.
Yeah.
That's
Some
my mom.
surprises. Yeah. They don't even look like how I thought they would look.
Yeah, it's like
I'm just like, oh.
you can be bold in doing things that are new to you.
Yeah.
We're looking over there and the cameras can't see. Well, there's like so many cameras pointed at us right now that one of them is getting it.
I want a room for my studio. Yeah. I want a door, and I want some noise canceling headphones. That's yeah. By this time next year.
I would say for the gallery to be doing shows regularly and for the energy to feel like it does now. Umiko started as a print shop in Santa Monica in 2018 and currently is in Atwater Village in its 5th location. We moved 5 times in the first 3 years of the business. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. But it's like this place where we can do a lot of different things. And it's the same thing as I was saying before, like, I don't know what it's going to be in a couple years. I don't know what we're going to be doing, but I'm kind of open to any kind of project or media or, like, we added framing to the shop just out of request. So everyone who was coming for prints was like, hey, do you know where I can get a frame?
That's so crazy. And now
Yeah.
it's like your bread and butter. Yeah.
It's just kind of like, huh. Yeah, and then the gallery, like we added the gallery after that. I just want to keep adding while maintaining like what we're doing and the quality of everything that we're doing. That's pretty much it. We got a new table this year.
What does umiko mean?
Umiko, umi means ocean,
Yeah.
the sea. Yeah, and now the garden outside looks like the ocean floor.
It really does.
I didn't know that was the concept until Saturday.
Was that Elaine's
Yeah.
concept?
I was like, oh, fire sticks, cool.
Wait, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Because like the blue waves on the building. I've always enjoyed gallery spaces. I opened one in New York with my brother in a midtown storage closet maybe 15 years ago. And then I worked in a photo gallery in Japan for a long time, so it's always just been a comfortable space. And it seemed like it was something I was going to do when I started this thing. The shows and the art and all of it, that part's super solid for me. There's a lot of other things that I didn't account for when I decided to open the space. That's been challenging, but that's kind of like anything. You don't know about the things that are going to be hard. What do I like about Jessie's work? The details they like bend my brain, which is really cool to get. Like I get to see that this close. That's really, I don't usually get that. And then also the storylines, the concepts and ideas are they touch on like, they can touch different points. And so it's easy for a large group to connect with the work because there's so many kind of issues being addressed. And also, like, one of the pieces in the upcoming show, I'm just like, I've been to this place. Like, I recognize this from a place that I've been, and I haven't. So, like, there is some kind of human connection that, we look at, in the shop we have art coming through all day. Like, either we're printing something for someone, we look at photos, we look at paintings, we look at all this stuff, and it's not, I mean, some stuff hits and some stuff, but like with her work, it's kind of like, oh, I've been to here. Like, this is, how could you know? How can you,
Whoa.
like, how could you?
That's so cool.
How could you create this feeling and you like without? She didn't do that for me. She wasn't like, I'm gonna make this for this person. I'm gonna make this for. It's just.
They're all for you, Danny.
I know. Y'all are just living in my world. The most surprising thing about owning a small business, I guess it's that having a storefront on a boulevard or like on a main street can allow the neighborhood to show up. Like, the previous spaces I had, none of them were like on Main Street. They were all kind of hidden in a dental office, in a garage behind a musical instrument repair center, like above a Chinese restaurant. This place is kind of like, oh yeah, people do live here and people walk here and people pop in. A lot of people pop in just to say hi, especially
often.
on the weekends.
It's him.
But
like
people just like
want to see him.
People want to know if I want a burrito or something, and that's really cool. And I think that's kind of like what the culture of the shop is. Yeah, it's hard to get things done sometimes, but that's not a bad problem.
Because everyone just wants to talk to you.
Yeah.
For like an hour.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, let's.
Yeah, like
Sometimes I'll come out and be like, or I'll text you and be like, do you need help?
Yeah.
I grew up in the Midwest and mostly Indiana. That's where all of my extended family is, or most of my extended family is. And I moved around a lot. My dad still works for General Motors, and so they would relocate us a bunch, but mostly Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and then I moved down to Louisiana and Texas for high school, and then Oklahoma for college, and that's where my parents still are. They're in Tulsa, and so I think, yeah, I do think it influenced or what I do in my work. In a couple of ways. One is that I grew up in like the early aughts, and so like cartoons and like video games and like super vivid imagery, I think like presents itself in my work because my stuff's super like color forward, and yeah, and I think in terms of my work is all about a depiction of self, like an ever evolving depiction of self, and how that relates to other people and our environment. And so a lot of my stuff, there's a couple of different ways I do it. It's like portraits with environment inside the figure, whether that's nature or manufactured elements. And then there's also ones that I've been doing lately that I want to continue doing. I've been calling them scenes, but a lot of them translate in this almost like this place where it's between reality and memory and imagination, because they're a little bit like one's in a diner. Like I have a drawing over there that's like my grandparents' house. They're retired corn farmers in Indiana. So I'll kind of like take different elements of where I grew up, things I've experienced, people I've met, and insert them into the work. The show's called Family Vacation, and I actually went through a title change. It was first called Walking Each Other Home, and I changed it to Family Vacation because the idea is I wanted there to be like a little bit of nostalgia. Like my family, I think everybody's family vacations were different, if they went on family vacations at all. Mine were like, we would take a road trip from Indiana to Florida. We would drive. I didn't fly on a plane until I was like 16. And like we would be like listening to like Stephen King novels in the car, and I would be bored out of my fucking skull. And
it was like an audiobook?
Yeah, my parents love Stephen King. No one's surprised. And yeah, and like the idea, I love that nostalgia, and then the idea of relating that title to my work is that in terms of like our lives and how we experience our lives and our environment, we're all kind of the family on a vacation, and like life is the vacation. Like we're on the vacation right now, and it's like we don't know where we're going, we don't know the itinerary, we don't know how long it's going to take us to get there. Like we just don't know, and it's this ambiguous, it's like this playful it's like this playful way that I'm like to conceptualize like the existential dread I feel like every single day. It's like, is the family vacation going to be fun? Is it going to be like, are we going to eat some good food? Are we like, you never know when the vacation is going to be over, and that's where the show.
Yeah, like, are we going to Costco?
We might be going to Costco.
Yeah. Like, what time does Costco close?
Are we leaving the country?
Yeah.
I've only been using color pencils for about 4 years. I painted for a really, really long time. And I lived in New York for a long time. I did scenic art, which is like painting for like Broadway sets and TV and stuff like that, for mostly like mostly theater, but like also like newsrooms or, you know, whatever needs paint. And so I painted for a really long time. I did murals. I've kind of always done art, but like painting like was really my focus for a while. And then I moved to LA, and I kept painting, but I was in this like weird spot where I was really like confused and lost about my practice and didn't really know what direction I wanted to go. And so I made a lot of like really bad paintings for like a year and was really unhappy. And then I switched to, I literally had some colored pencils that I had kept from high school, like vintage Prismacolors. And I don't know why, but I kept those and I pulled them out and started working on some just like, it might have actually been, this is actually one of the first drawings I did that I'm cutting up to make a chandelier. But I
was like, you doing an egg drawing?
Yeah, I'm cutting it up. But I switched to colored pencils and things just kind of clicked. Like it just felt super playful and really almost like I was like a kid, you know, like, but in a good way. Yeah, and then I just kind of rolled with it. Morning, 100%. I will roll out of bed. I will not shower. Like, I won't brush my teeth. Like, it's kind of gross. I will literally roll out of bed. I'll make coffee and then I'll sit in my studio.
Don't get.
I truly, I'm like a little troll, and I like will like pull myself out of bed with my coffee and sit down and draw for like at least the first like 2 or 3 hours of the day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then sometimes, and then I get like a little sleepy, and then I'll like take a nap, and every once in a while I'll like oscillate between being like a morning person and a night person. And I'll draw like until like 2 in the morning sometimes, because like that feels kind of nice. Like no one's texting me, like no one's, you know, but morning for sure.
So this month, on the 22nd, June 22nd, Saturday, the opening is 5 to 8.
Yes.
And the show will be up all summer until
A summer show.
a summer show
Until August 30th.
until August 30th, which is
Yep.
in August.
Yeah, the tail end of August.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 15 drawings, 15 original drawings.
15 original drawings.
3 hand-cut, hand-drawn paper chandeliers. Mobile chandeliers.
Are we counting the sketches as the...
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then we'll prepare a PDF of everything will be available before the opening.
Yeah, and if you want, we're making a zine. Yeah, we'll send out printed media.
It will be printed. We're sending out some items.
Yeah, some items.
Yes.
Yeah, I made a playlist that will be included. Parts of this interview will be included, and a few photos of the show, a few photos of the drawings. Yeah, I think that's it.
Sweet.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine.